Hey guys, so the Young Turks is a progressive online news and commentary channel and show started in 2005 by Cenk Uygur, a Turkish American, and it's had a lot of different forms. I think it started out on Air America, which was an XM station. It's been a podcast, and now I think it's probably the biggest it's ever been. I think my first time I listened to the Young Turks was probably 2007, and I had a membership for a number of years, and I stopped the membership not because I stopped liking the show. I think I just went through a period where I was tight with money and just never renewed it. So anyway, recently there's been a little bit of, I guess, negative attention to them because of some comments that one of the show's hosts, Anna Kasparian, made when she said she didn't want to be referred to as a birthing person. And then Jank kind of like defended her. And then later on, Jank, and I believe Anna as well, made some comments about transgender women in sports. So I think this, on top of a number of things that they've said regarding the trans rights movement, has turned off a lot of people and has made a lot of people, most importantly trans people, feel that they are transphobic. And I wanted to say some things about it. I'm not transgender, so my opinion carries very little weight, but they did say some things about the civil rights movement, which I wanted to comment on that. So regarding the comment of a non-birthing person, I hope I said that right the first time, or excuse me, a birthing person. So first of all, no one is calling Anna a birthing person. She may have she may have heard that terminology and it being referred to as cis women, but that's to take an outrage of that. To me, it kind of reminds me when people say, I don't want, things with other marginalized groups. I don't want that being stuffed down my throat when it's not really an issue. The term birthing person, the reason that terminology is used, and it's almost like a medical term, is because, well, it's referring to transgender, not just cis women, but transgendered men who still have their uterus. And if they were to stop taking hormones, they could have children. So to me, the outrage, and this is maybe an odd comparison, but the outrage to me, it kind of reminds me when people were during the Brexit, where you had people who lived in these small rural towns in England and the UK, and they were complaining about how they can't control immigrants coming into their border because of being in the European Union. And these were the people who voted for Brexit. But meanwhile, the people who live in the larger cities where there is a large immigrant population, they voted against Brexit in higher numbers. It wasn't really affecting these people, not directly, but they had their strong opinions about it. So regarding transgender people in sports, this is a thing that Jank goes on about. And so, you've probably seen the viral videos, and if you haven't, you can find them, where basically a guy like me, not a guy like me, a guy much stronger than me, will sit there and be like, I identify as a woman now, and then they'll deadlift like 1,000 pounds or something. And that's not how transgender sports work. The reality of it is the science when it comes to the performance of transgender women and even transgendered men, but nobody really cares about that because the fixation is with transgendered women more so, is that it's kind of up in the air. There are no transgendered women breaking records when they've been on hormones for a period of time. Now, I think this is a non-issue, and I think it's a distraction that's being pushed by the right because the right doesn't really care about women's rights or women's sports. The only policy they really have is cut taxes and deregulate. And they're using this issue to whip people up into a frenzy. So I think the sole purpose of it is a distraction. So the point with the civil rights movement, or the comparison that they're making, is saying that during the civil rights movement, it would not have been as effective if radicals would have been allowed to be at the forefront of the movement. And the thing that I think Jank is missing with this is that at the time of the civil rights movement, for people who were against the civil rights movement, there wasn't a whole lot of space seen between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. And, the idea that Malcolm X was this violent revolutionary is kind of like, that's even a misnomer. Martin Luther King has been greatly sanitized over the years. And at when he was murdered, he was very, very unpopular, and there were plenty of good Christian Americans who were happy, and I say good Christian Americans in quotes, who were happy to see him die. He was a radical. So at this point, the transgender rights movement is a right to survive, a right to exist. It's not about the right to marry. It's not about the right to be called the pronoun you want. It's not about the right to be identified as the gender you want. If you look at where the laws are going and the policies are going, it's the right to be who you are and by extension exist. And when it comes down to the basic right of being able to exist, there is no such thing as radicalism. And to give an inch is to give a mile. And in this case, to give a mile is to give away your existence. And that's the reality of it. And I think that Cenk and Anna are kind of missing this point. But I'll conclude with this. I don't think that Cenk and Anna and the rest of TYT, for that matter, should be excised from the progressive body like a cancer. And I think a lot of people want to do that. They're saying because of this issue, they are now right-wingers. And I think that's not the thing to do. One of the problems with progressive and left-wing movements, going back, and I just think of the history of, left-wing movements, socialist movements, workers' rights movements, is that there's a constant splintering because of these issues. It's difficult to sit there and tell trans people, though, however, that they should be patient and deal with. I mean, there at least one of their hosts, or I think two actually. I know one who is a transgendered woman, and another host, or at least another contributor to the channel who is non-binary. They've left and written off the show, so I can't tell them that they shouldn't have done that. And I'm not transgender and I'm not queer, so I can't tell them how they should feel. But I do think that basically writing them off is not the right thing to do. But anyway, that's just my opinion.